Dad's voice sliced through the hum of the family party. "You've ruined our lives, Jessica. You're a burden." The room went silent. My fork hovered midair. Across the table, Mom's lips curled into a bitter smile as she nodded in agreement. I felt my cheeks flush, not from shame but from something sharper clarity. Slowly, I set my fork down, met Dad's glare, and smiled. Minutes later, as I slipped out the front door, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom lit up the screen. "Don't come back," I typed back. "Okay. I just stopped paying your bills. Send." The first call came before I'd even reached my car. By the time I turned the key, the buzzing was constant calls, texts, notifications spilling in like a flood. They had no idea this was only the beginning. The night air was cool against my face as I walked to my car, but the heat in my chest wouldn't fade. I gripped the steering wheel and just sat there for a moment, breathing, letting the muffled laughter from inside fade into the distance. It was supposed to be a celebration, Uncle George's birthday. The Millers don't get together often, and when we do, it's all about big tables, too much food, and stories from 20 years ago. Tonight had started that way. Relatives I hadn't seen in years were leaning in, smiling, filling my plate before I could ask. Ethan, my younger brother, was showing pictures of his new dog. Everyone seemed normal, until Dad decided it was the perfect time to humiliate me. Here's the part no one outside this family ever seems to understand. I don't live in their house for free. Never have. I rent a room there, the smallest one in the back, with a window that sticks in the winter, and I pay every month, on time. Not only that, but I cover the internet, the electricity, and sometimes part of the mortgage when things get tight. Second. Meanwhile, Ethan? He's been living there rent-free for 3 years. No bills, no chores, no lectures about pulling his weight. He's the golden boy. The one who makes good decisions. I've heard Dad say it so many times, it's practically a family motto. Me? I'm the problem child. The mistake they never let me forget. If money was short, somehow it was my fault. If Mom was stressed, it was because of me. When I was little, I learned quickly to keep my voice down, to stay out of the way, to disappear. But tonight was different. Maybe it was the wine Dad had been nursing. Maybe it was the way I laughed when Ethan made a joke. But something in his eyes shifted, like he'd been waiting for the right moment to strike. And he did loud enough for the whole table to hear. I remember looking around after he said it. Uncle George's smile froze halfway. Aunt Karen stared at her plate. Ethan pretended to scroll on his phone like nothing had happened. That was the moment something in me broke, but not in the way Dad hoped. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't shame. It was release. I pushed back my chair, let the legs scrape the floor just enough to make everyone look up, and smiled. If they wanted me gone, they were going to get exactly that, just not in the way they imagined. I didn't say a word when I left the table. No slamming chairs, no shouting, no tears, just quiet footsteps through the hallway that smelled faintly of roast beef and lemon cleaner. My room was exactly as I'd left it that morning. Bed unmade, laundry in a half-folded pile on the chair, my laptop charger snaking across the floor. I yanked my old suitcase from under the bed, tossed it on the mattress, and started grabbing everything I could fit. Clothes first, jeans, t-shirts, sweaters, then my laptop, charger, and the small fireproof box where I kept important papers. My hands were steady, which surprised me, maybe because I'd been waiting for this moment without knowing it. 6 years of paying their bills. 6 years of being treated like a tenant who owed them more than money. 6 years of being told I wasn't enough until tonight, when they made it crystal clear I wasn't wanted at all. Fine. I could replace furniture. I could replace dishes. I couldn't replace self-respect. The zipper on my suitcase groaned as I yanked it shut. From the hallway I heard laughter again, though it was thinner now, brittle. Maybe they thought I was hiding in here, licking my wounds. Let them think that. I slipped my purse over my shoulder, grabbed my keys, and opened the door. Mom was standing at the far end of the hall, wineglass in hand. Her eyebrows rose when she saw the suitcase. "Where are you going?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. I walked past her without answering. Down the stairs, through the dining room, Dad paused mid-conversation with Uncle George when he saw me, his face flushed red, his jaw tightening like he wanted to bark another insult. I didn't give him the chance. I walked right out the front door. The night air hit me like a slap, but in the best way, cold, bracing, alive. My car was parked across the street, under the one flickering streetlight. I tossed my suitcase into the back seat, slid behind the wheel, and started the engine. I didn't have a plan beyond "not here." But sometimes that's enough. As I drove, the streets blurred past dim porch lights, shuttered shops, a couple walking a dog under the weak glow of a street lamp. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Mom's name. I let it ring. By the time I pulled into the gravel lot of a small apartment complex on the other side of town, the buzzing hadn't stopped. I'd seen the listing for a tiny studio online earlier that week. The landlord lived upstairs and was still awake. We made a deal in 10 minutes. It wasn't much. A single room with peeling wallpaper and a kitchen the size of a closet. But it was mine. And tomorrow, they'd find out I wasn't coming back. The studio was quiet, too quiet. No TV blaring in the background, no muffled arguments bleeding through the walls, just the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my own breathing. I dropped my purse on the counter, sat cross-legged on the bare mattress, and finally looked at my phone. 43 missed calls. The most recent one was less than 2 minutes old. I scrolled through the list. Dad, Mom, Dad again. Then, home, the landline, Ethan, 3 numbers I didn't recognize, and a handful of relatives I barely spoke to. The texts were worse, stacked so high I had to flick the screen 3 times just to reach the top. We raised you, Jessica. You owe us. After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us? Don't do this to your family. Mixed in with the guilt trips were sharper blades. Ungrateful brat. You'll regret this. Come home now. Some were strangely practical. Like they'd already moved past the outrage and into damage control. We need the internet bill paid before Monday. Your dad's blood pressure is through the roof. If something happens, it'll be on you. The last one made me laugh short, sharp, bitter. Then Ethan's name popped up. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. They're freaking out, he said without preamble. His voice was low, like he was hiding in his room. Dad's pacing, Mom's crying, and they're both saying you'll come crawling back. They can keep dreaming, I said. That's not all. There was a pause. Mom asked me for your social security number? I sat up straighter. She what? She said it was for some paperwork. I told her I didn't know it, but she's been going through old files in the office. I think she's looking for your bank stuff. The air in the room felt heavier. My parents knew enough about my past accounts to cause real damage. I'd trusted them with it when I was a teenager, before I realized how dangerous that was. Ethan kept talking. They're also calling Aunt Karen, Uncle George, everyone, trying to figure out where you are. Let them try, I said, though my voice felt tighter than I wanted. We hung up, and I set the phone down beside me, but the buzzing didn't stop. Calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Voicemails piling up, some screaming, some pleading, all designed to pull me back. And then, just past midnight, a new text lit up the screen. From Mom, don't come back. I stared at it for a moment. Then I typed back, okay. I just stopped paying your bills. Send. For a moment, the quiet returned. And then the phone exploded again. By morning, I'd stopped counting the calls. The phone had gone from a lifeline to a weapon, something I kept face down, screen dark, just so I could breathe. But I couldn't ignore Ethan. He called again around 8 a.m., his voice low like he was still in spy mode. Jess, Mom's not letting this go. She's in the office again, digging through the old mail pile. She had your bank statements in her hand. I sat up in bed. How the hell does she still have those? You left some stuff here years ago. College days, remember? They never threw anything out. Ah. I pressed my fingers to my forehead. I remembered. Back then, I'd trusted them to keep my documents safe. That was before I realized safety and control were 2 different things. She's also been on the phone a lot, Ethan continued. Last night I heard her say address verification to someone. She sounded serious. I swung my legs off the bed. My stomach was tight, coiled. She's trying to track me down through my bank. Or worse. Ethan said. She asked me again this morning if I knew your social security number. I told her I didn't. I exhaled, sharp and slow. Good. Keep it that way. If they ask anything about me, play dumb. Always. Got it, he said, but his voice wavered. Jess, I think they're desperate. Like, beyond desperate. Desperate. The word clung to me like smoke. I ended the call and walked to the tiny kitchenette, the tile cold under my feet. I stared at the single mug on the counter, at the tea bag steeping inside it, but my mind was already moving 3 steps ahead. If they were going after my financial accounts, that wasn't just meddling, that was theft. I pulled out my laptop and logged into my bank account. Everything looked fine, no withdrawals, no new charges, but that didn't calm me. If they were trying to get into my credit reports, they could open new accounts in my name, rack up debt, and leave me holding the bag. The phone buzzed again. A new text from Ethan. They just asked Uncle George if he still knows people who can get information fast. He told them to drop it, but, you know Dad. Yes, I knew Dad. I knew that once he decided something was his, he wouldn't stop until he had it, whether it was money, control, or me. I opened my browser and started changing every password I had. Email, bank, credit cards. I set up 2-factor authentication, switched security questions, even updated my mailing address to a P.O. box I'd opened months ago, just in case. When I was done, I sat back and looked at my phone again. The screen lit up with another call from Mom. I didn't answer, but I knew this was only the beginning. The call from Mom came again that afternoon. And for reasons I still can't explain, curiosity, maybe, or the need to hear the truth in her voice, I answered. Where the hell are you? She demanded before I could say a word. Her voice was raw, jagged. What do you want, Mom? You think you can just walk away and cut us off? You owe us. Silence on my end. You know what you've done, she pressed. We can't pay our bills. Your father's stressed to the point he's shaking. We are screwed because of you. There, it was the real reason. Not grief, not concern. Panic about losing the money pipeline. You told me not to come back, I said, my voice steady. I'm just doing what you asked. Her tone flipped like a switch, sweet, almost syrupy. Honey, let's just talk. We can work this out. Where are you? We'll come over. I almost laughed. No. The sweetness vanished. You think you're smart? We will find you. Click. The silence in the apartment felt thicker after that. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Mom and Dad just left the house. I think they're on their way to find you. I typed back fast. How? They have your old mail. I heard Mom on the phone with someone. I think they hired a private investigator. I froze. The blinds were closed, the door locked, but suddenly the walls felt too thin. I called Ethan. Tell me everything. He sighed. Last night she called some guy, said she needed an address verification. She's been going through your old bank statements. I think she's trying to track your accounts too. The tightness in my chest deepened. How long ago did they leave? 20 minutes. I think they're driving around right now. My voice dropped to a whisper. If they ask, you don't know where I live. Duh, Ethan said. Then, quieter. Jess, you really pissed them off. Dad punched the wall last night. Mom talked about revenge. Before I could answer, my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. I didn't pick up. Seconds later, a text came through. You need to come home so we can sort this out. We will find you either way. Chills crawled down my spine. I grabbed my purse and keys. If they were going to try to find me, I needed to be one step ahead. First stop, the bank. Inside, the fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I walked to the counter. I need to update my mailing address, my security questions, everything, I told the teller. And I want to know if anyone's tried to access my account. He typed for a few seconds, then frowned. Yeah. Someone called yesterday claiming to be you. Wanted balance information. We denied them because they didn't have the right security answers. My stomach turned. It was them. I changed everything, passwords, alerts, even added 2-factor authentication. When I stepped back outside, my phone buzzed again. A text. We're close. I lifted my head, scanning the parking lot. Nothing obvious. I told myself it was just another scare tactic until the next buzz came with a photo. My car. The picture was blurry, but unmistakable. I shoved the phone in my pocket and walked fast, my keys clutched tight. I got into the car, locked the doors, started the engine, and that's when I saw it in the rearview mirror. A black SUV parked at the far end of the lot. The second I pulled out, it did too. Stay calm, I told myself. Don't go home. I made random turns, doubling back, taking side streets. The SUV stayed with me. Never too close, never too far. Fine. They wanted to play? Up ahead, I spotted a gas station and turned in sharply. The SUV slowed, then rolled by before parking at the edge of the lot. I stepped out like I was going to pump gas, but instead walked toward the convenience store, passing close enough to see inside the SUV. Dad sat in the passenger seat, face like stone. The driver was a man I didn't recognize, mid-40s, bald, hands on the wheel like a bodyguard. Inside the store, I bought a bottle of water I didn't need, paying in cash while keeping an eye on them through the window. They didn't move. I texted Ethan. Dad is following me. He has a guy with him. Do you know who? Ethan replied almost instantly. That's Mark Harris. Uncle George's friend. He does sketchy stuff, not legal. The water bottle was cold in my hand, but my palms were sweating. Not legal meant one thing: intimidation. When I walked back to my car, Mark's eyes tracked me the whole way. Dad didn't blink. The second I started the engine, I knew I couldn't drive straight anywhere. I had to lose them. 2 quick turns, a sudden sprint through traffic, and then salvation. The police station loomed ahead. I pulled into the lot, parking right in front. The SUV slowed, then kept going. My hands shook as I gripped the wheel. I'd lost them for now. But this wasn't over. I stayed parked in front of the police station for a good 20 minutes, letting my pulse slow. The SUV was gone, but I didn't trust the quiet. My phone buzzed. Ethan again. They're losing it, he said. Dad's stomping around. Mom's crying to Grandma about how you stole from them. And, he hesitated. Mom just told Dad, if we can't scare her, we'll make sure she has no choice but to come back. My grip on the steering wheel tightened. What does that mean? I don't know. But they're talking to a lawyer. The words landed like a stone in my stomach. Ethan, listen. Find out exactly what they're trying to do. I'll try, but they're not exactly whispering to me anymore. We hung up, and I sat there thinking through every legal trap they could set. My name was still tied to some of their accounts, joint credit card, a car loan I'd co-signed years ago when they swore it was just to help with paperwork. If they wanted to play dirty, they could wreck my credit, open accounts in my name, even file claims saying I owed them money. I didn't wait. I drove straight to my bank. The teller, a young woman with kind eyes, listened as I explained. I need to remove myself from any joint accounts, immediately, and freeze anything that looks suspicious. She tapped at her keyboard, then frowned. There was an attempt to take out a large loan in your name yesterday. It wasn't approved, wrong verification, but they tried twice. My jaw clenched. Shut it all down. We went through every account, freezing, closing, updating passwords. I added fraud alerts to my credit file and ordered a credit freeze with all 3 major bureaus. By the time I stepped outside, the sun was low, throwing long shadows across the parking lot. My phone buzzed again. A text from Ethan. They just realized the bills didn't get paid this month. Mom's freaking out. Dad's swearing they'll make it official so you have to pay. Official. My mind went to the ugliest option: eviction. Even though I'd already moved out, they could file on paper saying I'd broken a lease or owed them rent. That could ruin my record, make it impossible to rent anywhere else. I pulled into a coffee shop and searched for a lawyer. 10 minutes later, I was in a small office across town, sitting across from Samantha Cole, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tone. After I laid it all out, paying their bills for 6 years, being charged rent while Ethan stayed free, the harassment, the loan attempts, she nodded slowly. If they try to evict you after you've moved out, it won't hold in court. And if they commit fraud in your name, you have grounds to press charges. Keep every text, every voicemail. You're in a strong position. For the first time that day, I exhaled without feeling like I was losing ground. By the time I left Samantha Cole's office, the weight on my chest had lifted just a little. She'd made it clear, I had rights. And my parents? They were running out of moves. Or, so I thought. The text from Ethan came as I was unlocking my car. They know where you live. They just left the house. Dad's raging, Mom's crying, and they're saying they're going to make you pay. I didn't panic. Not this time. Instead of driving straight to my building, I parked a block away, far enough to see without being seen. 20 minutes later, the black SUV rolled up, slow and deliberate, stopping right in front of my apartment. They got out Dad, Mom, and Mark Harris. Dad went to the door first, pounding on it so hard the sound carried down the street. I know you're in there, Jessica. His voice was thick with fury. You think you can just walk away from this family? Mom's sobs floated after his words. You can't do this to us. We need you. Mark just stood there, arms folded, scanning the street like he was guarding a payday. I pulled out my phone and hit record, zooming in on Dad as his shouts turned into kicks against my door. The wood rattled with each hit. There it was, destruction of property. The proof I needed. I called the police. 10 minutes later, red and blue lights flashed against the building. The moment Dad saw them, his voice dropped to a mutter. Mom's tears turned into the wide-eyed look of someone suddenly playing the victim. She stole from us, Dad tried to explain to the officers. She left and took our money. I stepped forward from the sidewalk, phone still in hand. Officers, I don't live there anymore. They've been following me, harassing me, trying to open accounts in my name. And just now, he tried to break into my apartment. I played the video, showed the texts, the threats, the loan attempts. One of the officers turned to them. Sir, ma'am, you need to leave now. And if you try this again, you'll be arrested for trespassing and harassment. Dad's face flushed dark red. She's our daughter. She owes us. The officer's voice didn't waver. That doesn't entitle you to her money. Mark broke the silence first, climbing back into the SUV without a word. Mom followed, shooting me a look I couldn't read, half fury, half something else. Dad lingered a second longer, jaw tight, before getting in on the passenger side. I stood on the sidewalk, watching the SUV pull away until it disappeared around the corner. Ethan's text came a few minutes later. They're still ranting. But I think you finally got through to them. I slipped my phone into my pocket and looked up at the quiet building. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like someone was waiting to pull me back under their control. They could scream, they could plot, they could tell every lie they wanted. I was free.